Hello guys, I'm Dr. Thompson, the instructor of the DeTsquare OET Academy. You are welcome to my channel. Today we'll be discussing breaking bad news in OET speaking. And if you are visiting my channel for the first time, I would advise you hit the subscribe button below. Before we go into details of how to break bad news in OET speaking, I would want us to go through the general tips that would help you in OET speaking. So we'll take these tips one after the other. First, we'll be looking at what we call GRIPS. It's just an acronym to represent greeting, rapport, introducing yourself, patient identification, and identifying the setting of the role play card. So in OET speaking, the grip is the first part of the OET speaking, where you have to greet this patient, you have to establish a rapport with this patient, you also have to introduce yourself to this patient, and also try to identify this patient. And at the same time, it's very necessary that you make the setting of this role play to be known. Okay, so how do you do this? For example, you can say something like this for the greeting. You can say hello, or you can say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time of the speaking test. Then you can also establish a rapport by greeting the patient. You are welcoming the patient. Maybe you can say, welcome, Mr. Smith. Welcome to this clinic. Welcome to this practice. You are trying to establish a rapport with the patient. It is also important that you introduce yourself to this patient. Hello, I'm Dr. Thompson, or I'm Nurse Thompson, one of the nurses in this clinic. Okay, it's also very important that you also identify this patient. You can identify this patient in any of these ways. You can either ask the patient, please, what may I call you? Then the patient will say, oh, call me Samantha. Or you can ask the patient, are you Samantha? And the patient will say, yes, I'm Samantha nurse. Or you can as well, at the beginning, just call the patient, give the patient a name, or you can call the interlocutor by his name if you remember. So you can say something like this, hello, Samantha. Samantha will say hello, then you now introduce yourself. I'm Nurse Thompson, one of the nurses in this department, in this clinic, in this hospital, in this ward, depending on the setting. After identifying the patient, it's also very important in the grips that you try to identify the setting by saying, welcome to this clinic, or I'm one of the nurses in this clinic. By so you've already identified the setting. Now, after the grips, what's the next thing that you're supposed to also note? You should be natural when you are making your presentation. Try as much as possible to be natural. Don't try to fake your accent. Don't try to mimic someone else's accent. So try as much as possible to be natural, and don't be too fast. Don't even be fast. Maybe you are rushing to finish your task. It is actually not necessary, because whether you finish your task or you don't finish your task, there is no score for finishing the task. So you have 9 criteria, and in these 9 criteria, you have the 9 criteria. They are divided into 2: clinical and linguistic criteria. You can visit one of my speaking tutorials to get the details on this. So there is no criterion that scores you on how fast you finish your task. So try as much as possible to be natural. Then allow your patient to talk. Sometimes you hear candidates talking, presenting, and they tend to talk over and over and over without giving the interlocutor a break. They tend to jump from one task to the other. Maybe they have 5 tasks in the role play card. They be jumping from one to the next just like that without even bringing the interlocutor into that discussion. That is very, very bad. If you do that, if you speak that way, I doubt you can't even score up to 350, because most of these clinical criteria you would have missed most of them out from your speaking. So try as much as possible to allow your patient to speak. For example, maybe you finish the first task. Maybe the first task says take history from the patient, and you as the nurse, you try to ask the patient what bring you to the hospital. The patient say fever and headache. You now say, oh, I'm sorry to hear this. Well, we'll try as much as possible to make we'll try as much as possible to treat you and give you the best of treatment. Okay, the patient will say okay. Maybe your next task is now to examine the patient. Before you go on to examine the patient, you will now ask the patient, after saying we'll try as much as possible to make you comfortable, you can now ask the patient, are there other things that you want us to discuss? Are you on the same page with me? Is it okay if I examine you? The patient will say, okay, please do. You will now go next to the examination. Okay, so it is not right for you to just jump from one task to the other without bringing the patient in. So try as much as possible to allow the patient to interact with you. Make it to more of an interaction instead of making it to appear as if you are giving a tutorial or you are delivering a seminar. Also, try to lead the patient. In OET speaking, you are the one to initiate the discussion, you are the one to sustain this discussion, and you are also the one to end the discussion if time allows you. Okay, so don't talk and pause and be waiting for the patient to talk. When you talk, try as much as possible to use leading questions to probe these patients to discuss with you, or to talk with you. So don't just talk and then you pause and be waiting for this patient to talk. Use leading questions to prompt this patient to talk with you. Watch out for what we call empathy cues. Sometimes this patient will say, oh doctor, I'm really angry right now for not giving me this medication. Okay, now this patient is angry. It's giving you a cue that he or she is angry. In this case, you can tell this patient, I'm so sorry that I made you feel this way. You can also say something like this, I can see that you are angry, but I'm sorry that you feel this way. Or you can tell this patient, please, Samantha, I would want you to calm down a little bit in order for me to explain in details what I mean by this treatment. Okay, so watch out for empathy cue. Maybe the patient is crying or is in pains. You can say, I'm so sorry that you are feeling this pain. You can tell this patient, I can see that you are in pains. I'm really sorry. You can also say something like this, I can't imagine how discomforting this must have been for you. Okay, so these are the ways that you can express empathy to the patient. Next, don't worry if you did not finish the point in the task. Let me move this to this. Okay, a lot of students, they are worked up when they are still they have 4 tasks or 5 tasks and they are still in number 2 and the time is gone. They feel so worried about that. You don't need to worry about that because there is no mark allotted for you on that. So whether you finish your task or you don't finish your task, it's a matter of have you followed the criteria, those 9 criteria. So that's what is really necessary. So try to be natural, because if you are rushing your task, you missed a lot of this. There is a tendency for you not to be natural, and you will not allow your patients to talk in that case. So now let's go to the steps that you must follow while breaking a bad news. Let me bring it back this way again. So the step that you must follow while breaking a bad news. Whenever you have a bad news, you have to follow these steps. So let's say your first task says discuss the patient's HIV results with the patient. The second task will now say profile possible treatments, solutions, or something like that. The third part might not say refer patients to HIV clinic. Okay, so this is a bad news, and your first task is saying discuss HIV results with this patient. It will be wrong for you to just, your patient just came, after greeting the patient, you're not telling the patient the result I have here says you are HIV positive. So the patient will be shocked. So that's not the right way to break a bad news. First, try as much as possible to find out how the patient is doing first. You can ask, Samantha, how are you feeling today? Samantha will say, oh, I'm still having this groin swelling. I'm still feeling this pain. I'm still having this fever. Then you empathize with Samantha. Oh, I'm sorry you are experiencing these symptoms, but we'll try our possible best to make sure that you get relieved from these symptoms. Okay? Samantha will now say, okay. You can still go ahead. You have the result. You cannot just break that result, but you are preparing this patient to break the result. Then you can go ahead to find out what the patient knows about this condition. Maybe the patient has done a test. You can ask the patient, do you have an idea what the outcome of your result might be? The patient might say no. He might say yes. I might give you a suggestion. So from there, you pick it up from there. Then you can also, after that, you offer, if here the person you are talking to is the patient's relative, also try to find out from the patient relative if they have any idea of what the patient might be going through, of what you are managing the patient for. Okay, then you can try to offer support to this patient. You can tell this patient, well, Samantha, at this point, I don't know, are you with any person here? Is there any person here to support you? Is there any person here to be with you at this moment, as I will want to discuss this result with you? Okay, with that, the patient will be having little signal that something bad is about to come out, instead of you just releasing that result just like that, boom, and the patient gets shocked. Okay, then you will now break the news in two layers by telling this patient, Samantha, I'm afraid I don't have a good news for you. That's the first layer. Okay, by telling this patient you don't have a good news for him or her, the patient is a little bit shocked. Then you now release the second layer. The results, I'm so sorry to tell you that the result of the HIV we did came out to be positive. Okay, then the next thing is to pause and see the patient reaction, and from there you take it up from there. So what you're going to do now, I'm going to play a recording, is a practical example what you are to encounter or see on the exam day. So it will also last for the 5 minutes, and you will see how this candidate tried to break this news following this step, and you will see how natural the whole thing is. Okay, all right, so let's get to that. Hello.
Hello. I heard that my wife had an accident and that's why I came.
Okay, are you the husband to Mrs. Janet Ali?
Yes, I'm the husband. I'm Mr. Ali.
Okay, Mr. Ali.
Yeah.
I'm Nurse Thompson,
Okay.
one of the nurses in this emergency department. You are welcome to this emergency.
Thank you. I'm glad to meet you.
Okay, if I may ask, do you have any idea of what really happened?
From what I heard, that she had a head-on collision with a
Okay,
truck and then she was rushed to the hospital. I really would like to know further details on her condition.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Ali, that this happened to your wife. Your wife was rushed in here some hours ago, and we tried to examine her and also resuscitating her, but I'm afraid that the resuscitation was not really helpful.
What do you mean by the resuscitation was not really helpful? Is my wife okay? Is she going to be okay? I would like to know, what are you people really doing for her?
Okay, at this moment, Mr. Ali, we did a CT scan for her to check what is actually happening out there in the brain, and The CT scan result, they actually are out now. I don't know. Would you mind to know the outcome of the results?
Definitely. I would like to know everything that I could possibly know about my wife's condition.
It's okay, Mr. Ali. Do you have any other person here with you, Mr. Ali?
No, not really. I rushed here alone as soon as I heard about the accident.
Okay. From the result of the CT scan, I'm afraid I don't have good news for you. The results show that your wife had a massive bleeding in the brain.
Really? Massive bleeding in the brain? What does that really mean? Does it mean that she's going to die?
I'm really, really sorry, Mr. Ali, that this happened. I can't imagine what you might be feeling right now. But the doctors, they've assessed your wife, and unfortunately, they said that at this moment, your wife will no longer require any aggressive treatment. Rather, we are going to provide palliative treatment for your wife. Do you know what that means?
Yes, I have an idea of what palliative treatment means, but this sounds really unsatisfactory to me. What do you mean by aggressive treatment would not be very helpful? Does that mean that you want to let my wife die? I think you want my wife to die. Can I please see the doctors in charge?
I'm sorry, Mr. Ali, that you feel this way, but we've done everything possible to see if we will make your wife okay. But at this point, it's all our efforts will no longer be, does not seem to be yielding any further success. So, from the doctor's point of view, they've decided that we'll make your wife comfortable for the meantime. Okay?
I think I'm understanding what you're saying, but I'm really concerned. There must be something that you could do, don't you think?
And Mr. Ali, to be honest with you, if there are better alternatives, any other thing possible that we could have done, we would have done that. But at this moment, there is no treatment available for this stage that your wife is at the moment, rather than trying to make her comfortable, to make her not to feel pain. Okay?
Okay. I understand. I understand. It's quite unfortunate.
Yes, I can't imagine how you might be feeling right now. But don't worry, the doctors, they will be out soon. They will also need to talk to you on further management plan. Okay?
Okay, okay.
Okay. Do you still have any other thing that you might want us to discuss before the doctors come to address other things for you?
Nurse, do you think you could actually tell me what to expect from this? I'm glad that the doctors are coming to, explain things to me, but what should I expect?
At this point, Mr. Ali, the expectations are not will not be a good one, to be honest with you. But we'll just keep our finger crossed and try as much as possible to make your wife to be comfortable and not to feel any pain. Okay?
Okay, thank
Okay.
you very much. You've
All
been
right.
really helpful.
It's all right. Are there other things still bothering you?
I think that's okay for now.
All right. Thank you very much. The doctor will soon be here and they will still talk to you. Okay?
All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye, Mr. Ali.